Roles of a denizen. A content creator is a user that creates posts and is rewarded based on the quality of their content. A content evaluator is a user that helps assess the quality of content and enforces community standards. The evaluator is effectively taking part in a marketplace to curate content and is rewarded for early evaluation. A content consumer is a user that wishes to find and consume the most valuable content in a given subject area or within a community. A lair owner is a person holding tokenized ownership of all or part of a community lair. Owners are rewarded with a portion of all mining activity happening within their lair. Owners are incentivized to build the best community of content creators and evaluators.
Hey fam, welcome to DENDAO Governance Call for June 22nd, 2023. I got myself, Distant, and Joe Dragon here, and we're going to go through the agenda for today's DENDAO call. You can find this over in the DENDAO layer on Den.Social. I'll pull that up now. You'll find a post in there called DENDAO 2023, and it's got a video embedded where you can just watch from there, or you can find us on over on Twitter or on, if you're already watching, you've already found us. So what am I talking about? Anyway, welcome to this call. There's a link that you can click on and join us if you want to talk about stuff. Right off the bat, we got a couple of things to cover. So we got LCP results. We've got some new layers to welcome. And then we have a couple of questions in the feedback about the offshoring conversation that we have been discussing, as well as some of the just following up on the Super Happy Dragon Lucky AMA question about what it would look like for someone to buy into the Den platform. So that's what we'll hit. Anything else you can think of that's not on the agenda right now, Joe? Or is that pretty much what we had to talk about today?
Very good.
All right. And I am listening in from the doctor's office. Right on. So we have, it's June. It is 2023. And the LCP results are in. So we've got the philosophy layer, and we have all wrestling entertainment. So philosophy was, that was I am for I am, right?
Yes.
Let's go into the LCP section. So if you're familiar with Den, LCP section has all of the contestants, all the proposals, and we vote on them from there. The ones that are highlighted in blue are the ones that won. So philosophy, that was I am for I am. You can click on the name and go read about the goals of the layer and who proposed it. And the same thing with all wrestling. That was Dude. That's right, Dude. What's up, Dude? All right. So cool. Those will be created next week. And until then, you can go over to Unique Voters and look at the runners up to see if there's anything in there that I can't talk today, that you would like to create, because there are runners-up options. If you've been on Den for a while, you've got some matter, and you can spend some of that on creating layers that didn't quite make the #1 slot. So that would be 200 matter for social influencers, 400 for the vegan layer, 600 for animals, 800 for DeFi, and finally 1,000 matter for the fair contests layer, which I think is based on Dragon Chain fair contest tech, or was the premise for it anyway, unless it's something else. You can go read up on it. If you want it, you can contact support at Den.Social, and we can arrange the fee payment, which if it's matter you've been mining on Den, there's no transaction fees or anything. You can just directly do it within the platform, and that'll get made. And finally, sorry, I guess I'm speeding through this a little bit, but I wanted to get all the options out. The last option is anything above 8 unique voters. So if you look at the numbers of unique denizens who have voted on each one, regardless of what's been committed lore-wise, scroll all the way down to where you start seeing it hit 8. And anything with 8 or more can also be created with 2,500 or more matter. So if you're a Rick and Morty fan and you really want Rick Sanchez layer here, you can come in here and make it happen. You can influence that universe.
Yep.
Cool. And of course, if you want something that's not on here and you've got some very specific things you want to do, like integrating a third-party token or migrating an existing DAO from a different platform onto Den, that can be done as well with the non-LCP, the business layer type. And that can either be a public one for everyone to participate in, or it can be a private one too, where it's invite only. So there are options upon options. So that's the update for layers. Again, those will be created next week. We've got till I guess Monday. So over the weekend, if you send those lore in to create the layers, we'll get her done. Otherwise, those are the 2 that we've got for now. Boom. Agenda item done. Now, we've got an ongoing conversation that we'll hit on again, because there's some more information from IM for IM on what it would look like to offshore Den, where that might happen. If we're going to do it, what makes sense. So we're iterating through that a little bit again today. IM for IM has been using AI to try to get some concise information for us here. And so far, what I've seen has been pretty interesting. It is worth noting, though, for sure, that this is, as of September 2021, one of the shortcomings for AI currently is that it is not aware of the present. It has a cutoff date where the training data has brought it, and it knows nothing about reality after that date. So things have surely changed since September 2021, but we've got Switzerland, the US, Germany, Estonia, and Malta on here. We've talked about at least Malta before. I think we've probably even talked about Switzerland at one point too. Obviously, there's issues in the US right now that we knew we were seeing definitely hints of it in 2021, but we also had a lot more reason to believe it was going to go positively in the US back then. Right now, we're not really sure. But as we're looking at offshoring from the US, we can count that one out. And then the other 2 are Germany and Estonia. Now, Germany is interesting because half my family lives there, and I go over there a lot. And I have noticed a couple of things. One, there's if you take the train around some of the cities, you'll see Bitcoin zones. There's actually posted signage and stuff for Bitcoin zones. And it's just like some local businesses and stuff that accept Bitcoin, or there's a club that's based out of there or something. There's definitely a subculture in Berlin and stuff like that for cryptocurrency and blockchain. And the state doesn't tax any of it if you hold it for more than like a year, which is pretty interesting. So they've got some, whether or not you agree with them, they've got some rules written down that you can point to and say, here's what the rules are. So that's at least a leg up on the US.
And the thing, and I don't know whether this being AI, if it's accurate, but the thing that does worry me is the ones that do have some clarity, have clarity for securities.
Yes.
Which I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah, but what if you want to have not securities? What do we do with that? Right. So from what I understand, and I'm not a German or a lawyer, but from what I've read, it's basically saying, okay, we don't know how to classify them, so let's treat them the same as securities, even if they're not. And I don't think that is to say that they're calling them securities like we are in the US. It's just that they're saying, let's apply that rule set to them. And not for the operating businesses so much as for the consumer and the trader and the holder about how they're supposed to pay taxes. So it's not necessarily being classified as a security in an operational sense. It's more of a, how do we tax this type of thing? You know what I mean? Yeah. So they're like, we don't know, but we got to tax it somehow. So let's just tax it like securities and figure it out from there. So I think that's how it is. I would have to look into it more. But I think there's some distinction where it's like, we're not saying it's a security. We're saying we're taxing it like a security. Yeah, which is at least something. Yeah. So, and then Estonia is interesting. I don't know anything about Estonia.
I know they had the what was it? Mothership was there, and also they had the digital ID that was essentially. So I don't remember exactly the makeup of it, but it was supposed to be decentralized ID that anybody in the world could get, uh, and have something not, I guess, exactly like a passport, but where you could get at least a digital ID issued by the Estonian government somehow, I believe. So yeah, so they were already kind of looking at that, which was pretty interesting for a small country.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
And then there is so El Salvador and the Caribbean also. So El
Yeah.
Salvador, as we know, has famously embraced Bitcoin to an extent in
Mm.
sort of a maximalist kind of way. Maybe not a maximalist kind of way. That's not fair. The maximalists are embracing it as a maximalist move, I think, more than the country itself is, because the country itself is not like they have. They're treating it. So let's see. They've got some really cool stuff like no taxes and incentives for people to come in and build. They've got basically the doors are wide open for anybody who wants to come in and build with blockchain, and I think that isn't Bitcoin specific.
Mhm.
But they're also in their adoption of Bitcoin as a, what is it, a recognized currency or a sovereign currency or whatever you call it. They're
Legal tender?
basically legal tender, yeah. So like if you do business in El Salvador, I think you have to take Bitcoin.
Right.
Is how that's playing out. So that's interesting. They have their own wallet. It is centralized, but it's using Bitcoin, right? It is at least the centralization is around Bitcoin, and they're getting people used to the idea. So something to keep an eye on. They got a lot of volcanoes and waterfalls, so you could potentially mine a bunch of Bitcoin there.
Yeah.
So El Salvador hasn't specifically recognized DAOs, but they're definitely playing with cryptocurrencies. And then the Caribbean, Joe, you've mentioned some of the island nations before. Like, what is it? Is it Bahamas, Bermuda, one of the B's, Barbados, Barbituates? I don't.
However you say it, I don't
Seychelles is, yeah. That now that's
one.
Pacific Ocean off the east coast of Africa,
Okay.
and prone to, um, if you wanted to physically be there, there's a lot of issues with that area because there's a lot of Somali pirates out there.
Mm.
I used to operate out there on one of my deployments. Seychelles is pretty safe. It's far out in the ocean. The pirates stay pretty close to shore, but it's also like way out there too. It's like fucking way out there.
Okay.
So it's
Yeah.
there's like a Navy base there, and there's some stuff there. I think it's reasonable to assume you could get domiciled there. I've seen companies domiciled there. I don't know what it requires to do that. I think that's the follow-on question to each one of these nations is like, okay, assuming they're all the same, what does it take to actually legally domicile there? Do you have to have an entity there? Do you have to rent an office and have someone that, is affiliated with the DAO live there, kind of thing? Is another question.
They all have different rules, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Bermuda, I think Bermuda is the one I was thinking of. They've implemented regulatory framework known as the Digital Asset Business Act, which provides guidelines for the operation of cryptocurrency exchanges and other blockchain-related businesses. The government of Bermuda has shown positive stance towards digital assets and blockchain innovation, which they should. A lot of this industry is really lending to countries who want to catch up. If you think about how this is probably another reason to offshore, because there's nations that are hungry for progress in commerce.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about how like cell phones enabled countries to leapfrog the technology threshold to catch up to nations that invested dramatically large sums of money into telephone copper wire infrastructure. And then later on, there were cell phones, and then you could just put up a radio tower. And even cell phones themselves, the first like in the US, some of the first cell phone networks are not as good as like the Asian ones because they came later and they benefited from, having new tech. So that's sort of happening with this. That's sort of happening with decentralization and different ways of doing the same thing that are more efficient. And you could even, like do it more efficiently, like in a physical sense too, as far as not having to be on site to operate a machine or not having to, to have it centralized. So the island nations I've heard or read are wanting to lean into that to attract that. Roger Ver was big on Antigua and Saint Kitts Nevis. I don't know where Saint Kitts Nevis is. I know Roger's a smart fella. He thinks about these things in a very logical sense. And from what I understand, is working with Kim.com on some stuff too that's pretty interesting. I don't know if I have an opinion on Kim, but he's got influence and can bring an army to help do stuff. So I'm interested to see how that works out. But Roger Ver's got a lot of really good ideas, and he's, from what I've read from him and seen him do, he takes a very specific, like, what would you call it? Like an engineering approach or a logic approach or a here's what I'm doing and where, what's the best way to do it, all bullshit aside kind of approach.
Yeah.
So yeah, if he's looking at those places, then there's probably something to it. And then Nevis. Yeah, I don't know where Nevis is. Cayman Islands. A lot of these, I think, they have different. See, I don't know I haven't read any of these legal documents from these countries. All I've read have been stories that say, hey, they're doing this, they're doing this.
Yeah, they're just all down there east of the Virgin Islands. So interesting. Yeah.
Governments introduce regulate cryptocurrency exchange. See, all these are regulating cryptocurrency exchanges.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it would benefit us or if we would have, like, I'm not going to be interested in going someplace if I have to categorize myself as an exchange.
Yeah.
That's not what we're doing. I'm not trying to be an exchange,
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if it's just like, oh, well, you just got to call yourself that on paper to be able to do business here. I've done that before in the US because the city government told me that was what I needed to do.
Yeah.
Bit me in the ass.
It always does.
Like, no, it's fine. Yeah, it's zoned for this, but just have a little storefront in the front and sell a couple of things and then call yourself retail and you can go there. Turns out that's not a great idea to do that.
No.
Because then you really do get categorized as that, and you really do have to play all the games associated with that.
Yeah. God, it's ridiculous.
All right, so I don't think an EU nation is worth pursuing. They are certainly not freedom focused. Is the last note on that?
Yeah. I can see that.
And then there is, so I don't know what to say about all of that except that it's a lot of good information. We could use them as what do you call it when you put a bunch of things on a list and then start crossing them out? You can use them for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We could use them as a starting point for like a process of elimination and start going through them and saying, like, for example, if you wanted to cross off all the EU nations, that's something we could start with. Or you could specifically like take a week on each one of them and read everything that's real and consult a lawyer and say, like there's different ways to approach it. Some of them are pretty obvious, though.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. And then there is a post in Cryptocurrency Layer on the top 10 crypto-friendly countries. So that is something we can look into later for sure. We don't have like a wikified post function, which would be cool. But this is something that would lend to that pretty well, where we started a document that people could then spend energy on making edits to, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We could use that post or this post, though, to if somebody wanted to, like I am, or you or me, wanted to take the OP role of getting feedback from the replies and then editing the original document based on that, you can do. By the way, there are some hidden features on Den's Markdown interpreter where if you edit it in Markdown mode, you can do a strike through.
Yeah,
it does allow you to do strike through. So we could have a list where we go through and strike some out with a note that says why or something like that.
yeah.
And finally, we just wanted to note that there was a question on what it would look like to purchase DENDAO. What would look like if an offshore DAO said, we want to buy DAO, buy DENDAO, so that we can turn DEN into something that we believe that we can uniquely accomplish.
Yeah.
There is, go back to Super Happy Dragon Lucky and listen to Joe talk about that. He has already. It was pretty good. We've talked about it before. There's a little discussion there about the governance system on Den and how that is organized to where you still have the community kind of keeping some control over what happens instead of it being a super like one-way decision. That, you know, often when that happens, either the people that help build the platform don't ever get any benefit from the buyout, like we saw with YouTube, for example, or they buy it out and then they just wreck shop because they do some stuff that's absurd that nobody in the community cares about, and everybody goes away. Like, what was it, Dig or something that happened, right? Or some other site. So, yeah. I'll wrap it up. I'll make this a pretty cool, or pretty quick DENDAO call, and say go watch Super Happy Dragon Lucky this week and listen to the AMA, because that's definitely in there. Other than that, reminders. So Tuesday, Super Happy Dragon Lucky. That's at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central. On Tuesday, that's with Joe, who does an AMA every week. So that you can ask questions about Dragon Chain, you can ask questions about Den, and the person who both of those are his brainchild. He's the one that's answering your questions. So you get direct access to Joe on those every week. There is Coffee with Den, which this week we talked about aliens. So you never know, like, that's a really casual, basically meetup talk about. We usually start off on one topic and then dovetail into whatever. We got into a shouting match this week. That was fun. Watched the second half of Coffee with Den to hear Gravity Crab go off on Graham Hancock's theories about pre-Younger Dryas period human civilizations. That was a lot of fun. I love kind of those heated debates among friends where we're not angry at each other. We're just trying to, lay out our point of view. So that's on Wednesdays. I do that at 9 a.m. In September, I'm shifting it to 8 p.m. So it'll be Coffee with Den with beer or something. I don't know. And then on Thursdays, we do World Blockchain Roundtable. Today, we were throwing out ideas of what you would do if you were a monarch or the king or queen of a nation. How would you implement blockchain? What would you do if you could do it just by, decree? How would you make changes, and how would you get shit done and use this tech if nobody was stopping you? So that was today. We do World Blockchain Roundtable at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central on Thursdays. And then, of course, this meeting is at 3 p.m. on Thursdays. Sometimes we have a lot to go through. Sometimes, like today, we have a little bit of things to go through. And is there anything else that I'm missing? Nope, I think that's it. Yeah, I hit it. We didn't drag ass today. We got through it.
Very good. Very
Thank you, I am for the input. Good luck at the doctor's office.
Yes.
Let me scrub the comments one more time just to see if I miss anything. I am wants to do some more research on info that is more current. If you find yourself with time to do it and you want to dig into it, I think it would be really helpful to find out what the requirements are to domicile in some of these nations. Because I think that's what I'm most curious about. Of course, how they treat blockchain and decentralization, but also let's say it's perfect. Well, what does it take to get domiciled there or get registered there or move your DAO there,
Right.
whatever. And he's got to go. So do we. Awesome. So next week, it'll still be June and we'll still be here. So come back and tune in at those times that I just went over in the reminders. All right. Joe, anything?
Perfect. Oh, nope, nothing.
Cool.
It's good.
This is a song from Y'all Weird called Enter the Dragon, and it's got a bunch of posts from Den featured in the little slideshow there. It's rapid, so look close. See ya.
Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best.
Adaptable, all capital, label radical yet rational. A tactical approach is palpable if this animal is fallible. But that conclusion is laughable, so with for all detachable from the mandible, you see it now?